Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitan Ena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Iti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Nice to be back with all of you. There were several more questions pending from yesterday's session, and so it was decided that I continue to answer those questions. Hare Krishna to everybody. So I've got the next question listed here in front of me, and I think many devotees have sent more questions today or since the announcement was made. Let's plunge into the questions. Hare Krishna Prabhu, how to develop more faith in authorities? Please share any personal example. Okay. It's an important question about having faith in the authorities. As you all know, we are an ISKCON, an institution, Hare Krishna movement, temples around the country and some in the outside of the country. So, authorities and having faith in the authorities. Before I answer that particular question, let's understand how this whole thing fits in the Vedic culture. In the Vedic culture, we are all familiar that there would be the spiritual master and there would be many disciples, and every day the disciples would be serving the spiritual master, and the spiritual master will be giving directions on a day-to-day basis, maybe philosophical directions, as well as day-to-day some conduct. And like we read in Srila Prabhupada's books, it is said that a disciple must be serving the Guru, and when the Guru orders, he goes and takes his food. If by chance the Guru forgets to give the order to the disciple, my dear disciple, go and have lunch, go and have prasadam, dinner, the disciple should fast. So in other words, you can see from this example, there was a very close day-to-day, hour-to-hour kind of an interaction happening between Guru and disciple. This is the Vedic model. Now, how did Srila Prabhupada transplant that Vedic model, Vedic tradition, in a modern society? We know from Srila Prabhupada's example from 1966 to 1977, when he was establishing temples around the world. In the initial days, Prabhupada was very much available to the disciples, and they would ask him all simple questions, and Prabhupada was there to answer them. And then as ISKCON became bigger, and then Prabhupada began traveling, there were more disciples. That kind of an intimate one-on-one communication and teaching, instruction was obviously not happening. And as ISKCON grew, 1976, 1977, Prabhupada's system that he had created was that there is a temple president for the temple, and there are devotees doing services under the direction of the temple president. And the temple president has both a management role and a spiritual role. He is supposed to guide the devotees in the temple on spiritual matters. And he is also supposed to give them directions on what to do, what service to do, and so on. In fact, there are letters when some disciples wrote to Prabhupada after 1975-76, around that time, you'll start seeing Prabhupada, when some devotee wrote some question, Prabhupada would direct the devotee that I have GBC men, I have temple presidents, there are sannyasis, you should ask them these questions. So Prabhupada expected the devotees to ask questions from the senior devotees in the movement, the sannyasis, the temple president, and the GBCs. And there are also instances of Prabhupada, some devotee asking some managerial question, service-related question. And Prabhupada would also say, you should follow what your temple president says, and so on. So, what Srila Prabhupada was actually doing was that the role of the Acharya, the role of the Guru, personally instructing and guiding the disciples, the original Vedic model, he transplanted that in a worldwide modern society in the form of temples and having a temple president and the devotees serving. And the temple president, in that sense, is a representative of the Guru, and he is made responsible for training the disciples. So there are also some statements of Prabhupada, if you see, the spiritual master trains the disciple in the deity worship. Right? Those are instructions. That such a sentence exists in Srila Prabhupada's books. So was Prabhupada personally training the disciples in the deity worship? He was not. He was traveling, and maybe the first time when the deity worship was instituted in Los Angeles temple, that's where first time Radha Krishna deities, Gaurnita deities, Jagannath, Baldev, Subhadra deities were installed in 3 altars. And Prabhupada said this is the kind of an arrangement we must have in all temples. And so when Prabhupada did that, there were occasions where Prabhupada directly gave some instructions to some of the disciples, maybe a handful, 12 of them. What about the remaining 5,000? But the book says the spiritual master trains the disciple in the deity worship. So he expected through his representational system that the training continues. So in other words, the temple leaders, they have an important responsibility of representing the Guru and training the devotees in the temple, not only in managerial and service-related matters, even in spiritual matters, developing the right attitude, right consciousness, right kind of a perspective, how to behave in a devotional manner, what is the standard of devotional behavior. All of these kind of things, it is expected that the temple leaders, headed by the temple president, plays that role in training the disciple. The GBCs also have a role, the temple president has a role, and maybe others under the temple president who have all got some delegated powers, they also have roles to play. In other words, that is why, whether somebody has consciously applied their mind and understood or not, the authorities in the temple, sometimes somebody may not be happy to use the word authorities, management in the temple. Okay, so the authorities of the temple or the management of the temple have a certain representational role. They are representing Guru, and how the disciple training, all of that must happen. So they have both managerial and spiritual role, and hence the devotees in the temple to have a very healthy respect and trust and faith in the authorities is essential. So it's not a mundane organization. You see, in the mundane organization, you may have some kind of a working respect for your boss. And then if you don't agree with the boss, you have some difficulty, you leave the job, go to another job and look for another boss. All kinds of things happen there. Here in the ISKCON setup, the devotees look upon the temple president and the management and the authorities. It is expected that there is a certain amount of spiritual faith, a certain amount of spiritual respect, because they are representing Guru and they have that role to play of training the devotees, which originally in the original Vedic culture, the Guru was himself doing it personally. So in Prabhupada's scheme of things, he set up an institution, and not just an institution, it was a global institution. And he made a simple structure. Every temple has a temple president and who reports to the governing body, and then there is a governing body commission, and that is the ultimate managing authority of ISKCON. So this is the kind of a system that he created, and hence it is important. Number one, this question is how to develop more faith in the authorities. I would like to look at this question from both sides. How the devotees can develop faith in the authorities. And what is the role of the authority? What is the responsibility of the authority so that he behaves, maintains, conducts, does things in the way so that the devotees will feel he's trustable. He's somebody I can put my faith in. So both sides it is essential. You can't say only the devotees have that role, they have to develop faith, and the authorities, they can be whatever they want. No, Prabhupada has given both instructions. So Prabhupada expects the temple authorities, the temple management, to play the role of a responsible leader, of a responsible senior devotee, a Vaishnava, and by their own example, they follow Srila Prabhupada's direction and they show by their own example how devotional service has to be practiced on a day-to-day basis. So Prabhupada wanted temple programs and he wanted the temple leaders themselves to set an example and inspire other devotees. The temple leaders are expected to be reading Prabhupada's books, understanding the philosophy, and should be able to speak and give class and to the counsel devotees and maybe even public programs, meet donors and speak and preach philosophy. And they should, by their example, they must lead. So that is why in ISKCON, because that has been the culture in ISKCON, the visible leadership is an important factor in our culture. Every devotee looks upon to the temple president that he is a good example of spiritual standards. And so that is expected of the authorities, that then the devotees will naturally feel, oh yes, he is following Prabhupada's principle that I must develop faith in him. Factor from the side of the devotees in the temple, they must have respect, they must have trust, they must have faith, and in the authorities. And now suppose some authorities make some mistakes, some difficulties there, and I know I'm seeing that the authority is not doing the right thing. What should I do? There is no recourse, is it? I must just still have faith, whatever he does? No, not necessarily. So just like in an institution or in an organization, in the authority structure also there is hierarchy. So if you're not happy with somebody whom you're reporting to, there is always an opportunity to go to the next level and then to the next level and different levels. If you have read the recent, about I think 1 or 2 years back, there was a GBC resolution that was passed in our GBC body, which said that if a devotee in the temple is having some issues with the temple president, then the devotee can approach the governing body representative of the temple. And so the governing body representative is supposed to address that one. So it does not become an aparad. Oh, temple president, I'm going above him to answer. But then the GBC also has made the resolution, it should be a substantial case. It can't be some trivial issue. On Sunday I want pakoda, but the temple president is saying bonda, so I want to go to the GBC. It's not a valid issue. So it should not be pakoda bonda kind of a subject. It must be a substantial, important subject matter, philosophical or the service related. Then the devotee can go to the governing body representative. And in case the governing body representative is also not able to give the proper answer or something, then the devotee can escalate. If the matter is so serious to the entire GBC body, and if the GBC body thinks it's an important subject, they may apply their mind, may give a direction, and you must take that direction as it's a direction that has come from Vaishnavas. I will accept that one and go on. So this is an essential feature of Krishna consciousness. And I think I've spent enough time. There are many questions. I'll move on to I would like to spend a little more, but I'll keep it for another occasion some other time. I'll move on to the next question. As we are in Bhakti path, chanting and worshipping Lord, we have everything, then why sometimes are not happy and are in anxiety? Okay. We are sometimes not happy and are in anxiety. Yes, we are on the Bhakti path. The Lord is everything. The Lord is the supreme controller. And we are in touch with Him. We want to please Him. Prabhupada says Krishna consciousness is a very simple process. But the application is challenging and difficult. And it becomes difficult and challenging because our mind, our conditioned soul's mind, is very complicated. We are constantly scheming, trying to find different ways how to maximize some personal sense gratification, some kind of a recognition within the Vaishnava devotee community, and all of those kind of things. Some recognition, some name, some fame, sometimes some power and some influence over other devotees. So all these kind of these are called anarthas in the consciousness of a devotee, unwanted things which are obstacles to devotional service. So it is these things which actually make the simple process of Krishna consciousness difficult to apply in our day-to-day life. And as a result, we become morose, we become unhappy. Another reason why sometimes of unhappiness, sometimes of a moroseness, sometimes anxiety, the devotee has mentioned anxiety here. So these kind of things happen because the conditioned soul, he's actually, when the conditioned soul is in the material world, he is subjected to guna pravaha. There are many expressions used in the Vedic literatures. Guna pravaha means a flood of gunas. And these gunas come with, sometimes it's a flood and sometimes it can be a tsunami. It can be very big. And you can imagine if it's a rajoguna tsunami hits us or a tamoguna tsunami hits us, what will happen to the poor conditioned soul? So that is when anxiety, depression, unhappiness, sadness, moroseness, negativity, all of these things come about. So the solution for all of this is more devotional service because bhakti helps us to transcend and overcome the influence of the modes of nature. So devotee, these kind of things may happen, and it is also said that this guna pravaha influence, as a devotee progresses in spiritual life, the influence of the modes of material nature keeps diminishing. And that's one of the symptoms of devotional progress, spiritual progress. And we must be conscious of all these things. And we must be making sure that we are progressing and the influence of the gunas are diminishing month after month, year after year. Just like when we were in school, every year it was expected that we'll move on to the next class, next grade, isn't it? And that way we show, we look back and we see, yes, every year I'm making progress. I'm in 4th grade, next 5th grade, 6th grade, 10th grade, and so on. The same kind of a progressive nature should exist in a spiritual life of a devotee. Prabhupada uses this expression a few times in the Bhagavatam. If you have read carefully, you can, on the Veda base, you can search. A progressive devotee. In other words, a devotee has to be progressive. Just like a student has to be progressive. He cannot be in the same grade year after year after year. Something's wrong, we would think, right? We'll be very surprised. So in the same way, a devotee is expected to be progressive. So we have to be looking into our consciousness, looking at surveying our own life and our spiritual life and seeing, making sure that I'm making progress. So then as time goes by, this kind of a moroseness, this kind of an anxiety, sadness and depression, one must be able to overcome these things with devotional service. And bhakti has that spiritual potency to actually pull a devotee out of such kind of negative feelings like that. So it's a very, very simple process. We are a spirit soul. Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I must surrender to Him. I must follow His directions. His directions are coming in the form of the Spiritual Master's direction. Spiritual Master directions are there from morning till evening how to do. I must be doing that and I must be happy. What more? It's actually as simple and happy process as that. But then our mind complicates it. The mind comes in and says, look at that devotee. That devotee has got all those privileges and is enjoying in a good position, good situation. You don't have that. Why don't you compete and try to get that? You will also become happy like that. All this envy, competitiveness, comparing with each other, that facility, this facility, I don't have that facility. All this is introduced by the mind. That's why Prabhupada used the word, the Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Thakur's instruction. We should beat the mind with a broom in the morning. We should beat the mind with a boot in the evening. In other words, we have to, this mind, as Krishna says in the Gita, that a mind which is controlled is the friend, a mind which is uncontrolled is the enemy of the living entity. So it's the mind which will actually play havoc in the life of a devotee, and it has to be tamed. It has to be tamed forcefully with a broom and a boot. In other words, we have to deal with the mind very, very sternly and not just follow the mind and surrender to the mind. We are supposed to surrender to Krishna, surrender to Prabhupada's instructions, Guru's instructions, not to the mind and mind's instruction. So when we do that, we will get into all these kind of problems. I'll go to the next question. Where and how devotees should put endeavor, research to find solution to coronavirus. Wonderful. Where and how devotees should endeavor and research. Go to the doctor, right? So Prabhupada gave the example that you have a legal problem, you should go to a legal expert. If you have got a medical problem, you should go to a medical expert. And of course, I was hearing the other day, Professor Google and Professor WhatsApp are also new modern day authorities of knowledge. And so you can ask Professor WhatsApp and Professor Google also. So we should be practical. Yes, doctors are telling certain things and the governments are formulating certain guidelines for behavior based on scientific information and evidence and all of that. Because this is a new virus and they don't have a vaccine, they don't have a medicine for that, they are also struggling with that. Research has to catch up with that. And so under the current situation, we have to listen to what the doctors say and apply that. So that's the place where we should do research. But then even that, we should do a certain amount of research. Not that morning till evening, day after day, one more information I found, that another information. How much is there? Yes, we have understood some basic things we should follow, we shall apply. And in the temple, in the community, there are a few devotees who are also applying their minds, and they are coming up with, and we are creating a certain regimen, and do this, don't do this, and all of that. We just do that, and then bulk of our time, remember Krishna. We have to become Krishna conscious, not Corona conscious. So sometimes we should, these kind of topics in the world can overwhelm us or something like that. We should be careful. I'll go to the next question. I'll be conscious of time. Okay. How to understand? Okay. Oh, Prabhupada, can you please explain how this coronavirus is a result of sinful reaction in a scientific way for the understanding of common people? Oh God. Tough question. All right. Can you explain how coronavirus is a result of sinful reactions in a scientific way for the understanding of common people? All right. Sinful reaction, and as a reaction comes, and all of those kind of things. Okay, there seems to be another second question on which also I can combine that. How to understand the present difficult situation, COVID-19, is there any prediction in the Shastras? What are the advantages and disadvantages of COVID-19 effect? Oh, all right. So I'll try to combine both these coronavirus related kind of questions. Okay. So, yes, Bhagavatam brings up this question. Why there are different kinds of living entities in this world? Some living entities are very, very blessed in good families, good talent, good wealth, good looks, and all of those kind of things, fame. And there are some living entities who are not born with those kind of talents, very unfortunate family situation, poor, troubled, and body with lot of ailments, and all those kind of things. Or if you look at the world around, there are birds which fly, and then something else, and bugs and insects and animals and all. Why these gradations of living entities exist? What is the reason for that? So, the devotee who has asked the question wants me to explain in a scientific manner. So, scientifically, science says that it is all because of a gradual evolution of the body forms and all of those kind of things. What we understand from the scriptures is that all of these bodies give different kinds of opportunities for the living entity to experience. Now, some bodies give a bad experience or a miserable experience. Some bodies give a good or a pleasant experience. Why some living entity is getting a good experience? Why some living entity is getting a bad experience? If God is equal to all and very compassionate to everybody and equal and impartial, just like parents, they try to be impartial to their children. If there are 2-3 children are there, they try to divide the things in half. Even simple parents try to be very impartial and nice and good and fair to different children in the homes. What about the Supreme Father? Is he not fair to everyone? Is he not having that? In fact, Krishna wants to be fair to everybody. But what happens is, there's a common example. I don't know if you have heard this from me in some classes. There was a village, and there was a temple in a village. So the farmer of the village went to the temple deity and prayed to the God in the deity that I have a big family, I've got 6 children, I've got grandfather, I've got grandmother, I have my mother-in-law, my father, mother, all of them are big children. We are 14 of us in the house. My Lord, I'm a farmer. Let there be lot of rain so that I can have good agriculture and harvest, and I can take care of the family very nicely. He prayed to God very, very sincerely, and then he went away. Half an hour later, from the same village, the potter of the village came, and he said, "My dear Lord, I have a very big family of 16 people. I have this one, and I'm a potter, and let there not be rain. Last year there was so much rain for 6 months, I couldn't make the pots. This year, please see that there are no rains at all. Let it be drought, it is even better. I can make a lot of pots and dry them, and I can sell them in the market, and I can make more money, take care of my family. My Lord, please let there not be rain." Now, look at God's situation. He's having one devotee coming and asking him, "I want rain." Another devotee is asking, "I want shine. I don't want rain." So these are contradictory prayers. If God favors one and he's not favoring the other, so how will God deal with this kind of a situation? So, and Krishna has said, "E yathamam prapadyante tham stathaiva bhajamyaham." The principle of reciprocation, how the Lord reciprocates, is depending on how you approach the Lord. So based on this principle, Krishna has made a principle that I will be neutral to all living entities. The result you get, how much pleasure, how much enjoyment or pain you get, it is a function of your past activities. It is dependent on your previous activities, how you perform. And that's why the law of karma has come about. And according to the law of karma, for our actions there is a reaction. And that reaction may not come immediately. It is in the form of moment an action is performed, a seed of reaction is created. It's called bija. The bija then slowly fructifies and becomes palonmukha. And then the palonmukha bija, that becomes further, it becomes fully blossomed phala. Then it is called karma phala. So it is in an unmanifest stage, the reaction of our activity, and then it becomes manifest. And then when it is manifest, we start experiencing. So we see that all over the country, last 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, or maybe even 100 years, there has been so much of sinful activity in the society, especially in the form of killing animals, especially in the form of killing cows all over the world, which brings a lot of sin. See, it's a very simple. There is one argument Prabhupada gives. A gentleman is one who thinks how I can give minimum trouble to others while I am living. This is a gentleman's thinking, Prabhupada explains. So, do we have to kill animals for our food? Somehow there are intellectuals in this world, this thing doesn't get into their head. Yes, there is definitely a certain amount of pain that I'm giving to that animal. And should I eat non-vegetarian food and give that pain when so many other vegetarian foods are available also? Okay, somebody may argue that no, vegetarian food also has some life and you're killing that life and all of those kind of things. And yeah, that's a fair argument, but nevertheless, the pain that is involved in an animal and the pain involved in a vegetable or something like that, or a fruit, is much lesser. I came across one argument, somebody told me this argument, a very interesting argument. There was a building on fire, and there was a fireman, they were running, they were trying to rescue people and trying to help people out. And this fireman went into a house, and then there was one child, and the refrigerator was open, and there were vegetables also. Now, he has to decide what I should save. Vegetable also has life, this child also has life. Which I should save? He cannot say, no, I saved 1 kilo of tomatoes, and child, it's okay, because 1 kilo of tomato, 25 tomatoes I saved. Is anybody going to appreciate that? Yes, there is a difference between a plant life and a human life or an animal life. And there is definitely a lot more suffering here. And we must be considerate that I should not inflict so much pain on that. And secondly, actually we cannot decide what is our food. This is my food or that is my food. We have to take directions from the Vedic literatures. Vedic literatures have to guide us how we live, how we eat, What kind of that's why you see this modern system of, you marry in the Western countries. You marry, you don't get along with your partner, you dump her or him, get remarried. And then you don't get along again there. After some time, that also relationship becomes difficult. You dump that person also. Go on another. And sometimes in their life, they go on with about 3, 4, 5, 6 marriages. And even at the age of 60, there people are thinking of marrying. And it's not uncommon at all in the Western countries. So, whereas in our country, we take direction from our Vedic literatures. That's part of our culture. You see, so how we lead, what we eat, we have to be guided by our Vedic literatures. So it's not that we try to figure out. So in that way, animal killing is sinful for human beings, and hence it should be avoided, especially in Kali Yuga. In Kali Yuga, these 4 are considered to be sinful, and hence we must avoid. So when so much of animals have been killed, there's one statement by, I don't know who made this statement. If slaughterhouses had glass walls, the whole world would become vegetarian. Actually, people don't know the kind of suffering the animals go through, and because there are walls which you cannot see. So it is a fact that there is a lot of suffering and for the animals, and we have to pay for it. Human society cannot get away with that. And hence, this kind of big reaction comes sometimes in the form of war, flood, pestilence, disease, pandemics. All these kind of things are expected to happen. And so we must see this in that light. Now, when it comes to some kind of a prediction, is there in the Shastras that this will happen, this kind of a prediction will happen, all these kind of things? As far as devotees are concerned, there's one example. There was a devotee. Even when we go meet people, suppose you go to a government office, so, you're moving, somebody will, we always encounter that. Somebody will come to us and say, Swamiji, can you see my hand and tell something about my future? Even when we are doing book distribution, very often we have come across, I'm sure many example devotees can cite this, when we are having a book table or something, people will come to us and show their hand and say. So there was one devotee, he said, oh yes, I can make some prediction. And then he held his hand and then looked this way, and then he said, you see, one thing I can predict, you are going to become old in about 20, 30, 40 years or so according to that person's age. I can see there's very guaranteed there is old age, and old age, your body will become weak, it will become disease, a lot of suffering will come old age. And then some diseases are also expected. And then one thing I can see from your hand, very, very definite, you're going to die one day. These are predictions we all can make, isn't it? That Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadhi, this is a given thing in this world. Exact detail, it is disease A versus disease B. How does that matter? You see, sometimes people go into those kind of things. Prabhupada gave a very nice example. He said, if you are saying, no, disease A is better than disease B is better than disease C, it's like you are making a distinction. Wet stool is better than dry stool. You should know stool is stool. It's a very strong, harsh, striking example that Prabhupada gave. But the fact is that it's misery, it's disease, it's suffering. It's one kind of suffering or another kind of suffering. The world is full of suffering. So let's not have karma ashayaha. Karma ashayaha means hope that by my activities I will become happy in this world. That's called karma ashaya. And the karma ashaya is a very deep-rooted thing. Grantitaha. Karmashaya udgrantitaha. Udgrantitaha. Udgrantayanti santaha. The Bhagavatam says, the devotees, this deep-rooted karma ashaya, they can uproot it. That's the function of a devotee. So we should not have hope in this material world. By material things, I will become happy. That's one of the features of a devotee. And nivritta tarshair upagiyamana. Who can appreciate Krishna? Who can appreciate Krishna's pastimes? Who can appreciate Krishna's holy name? Who can come to the point of relishing Krishna consciousness if that person is Nivritta Tarshair? He should be Nivritta Trishna. Nivritta Trishna means he must be retiring from hope of enjoyment in this material world. Such a candidate is a good candidate for Krishna consciousness. I'll go to the next question. It is said in Nectar of Instruction that if you take bath even once in Radhakund, at once he will attain Krishna Prema. Then why we have not attained so? What does it mean? Okay. If one takes bath in Radhakund, yes, it's a very special place, and one will get Krishna Prema. And the factor is that there is one statement in the Bhagavatam. If one chants Hare Krishna mantra even once, he will be freed of all sinful reactions. One name of Krishna can free one from more sin than one can ever think of performing. You see, there's another verse in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. I'll try to recollect that verse. The verse says, Koti Ashwamedha Eka Krishna Nama Sama. If somebody says Koti Ashwamedha, you know that Ashwamedha Yagna, it's a very, very rare thing, very special kings used to do that one. And so 1 Koti Ashwamedha Yagna is equal to one name of Krishna's holy name, one chanting of Krishna's holy name. If somebody says that, Chaitanya Charitamrita says, say Pashandi. He is a person who is fit to go to hell, because even 1 Koti Ashwamedha Yagna cannot compare with holy name, one chanting of the holy name of Krishna. Ek Koti Ashwamedha Yagna, Ek Krishna Nam Sama, say Pashandi, something, I forget the verse. So he is a Pashandi fit to go to hell, is what the Chaitanya Charitamrita says. Because Krishna's name is so potent. So in the same way, taking bath in one of such verses, not exactly that verse, in one such verse in the purport, Prabhupada writes, it is in the Kunti Maharani's prayers. Janmaishvarya Shruta Shribhir Edhamana Madav Puman Naivarhatya Bidhatum Vai Tvama Kinchana Gochara. In the purport to this verse, Prabhupada explains that this verse is saying, Janmaishvarya Shruta Shribhir Edamana Madav Puman. A person who is absorbed in increasing, he wants to enhance Janma Aishvarya Shruta Shri, good birth, Janma Aishvarya, wealth, Shruta, education, and Janma Aishvarya Shruta Shri, beauty. So if one is intent on increasing these things, Janmaishvarya Shruta Shribhir Edamana Madav Puman, if one is always thinking how I must increase all these things, such a person, what happens? Kunti is saying, Naivarhati abhidhatum vai. Naivarhati abhidhatum na arhati means, abhidhatum means to call out for Krishna. A person who is in a mental framework, I must increase my material wealth, education, and enjoyment, and fame, and beauty, and all of those kind. If somebody is Edamana means to increase. Edamana Madav Puman is very, very intoxicated with increasing these things. Such a person cannot call out to Krishna properly. So, even Jesus Christ said something like that. A rich man who You can pass a camel through the eye of a needle, but a rich man cannot go to the kingdom of God, or something like that. These instructions are meant to convey this kind of a thing, that if somebody is intoxicated with materialism, he cannot call out feelingly. In that purport, Prabhupada explains that there is a quality to such chanting and calling out for Krishna. So in the same way, if we don't have that quality of calling out helplessly, purely, and if that is not there, then it will not have the full effect of chanting. In the same way, when we take bath in the Radha Kund, also we are supposed to take bath. There is a quality to taking bath. There is a quality to doing these kind of spiritual activities. If we don't have that quality, and the consciousness once again comes up with all of the anarthas that is coming in, then you have taken bath in Krishna Radha Kund, you will get Krishna Prema, but it may take some more time, because you have to make up your mind. You see, Krishna will not force it on us. Krishna will not force Krishna Prema on us. There is one conversation. Where did this happen? Prabhupada was in a temple in Washington, D.C. The devotees were asking this kind of question about independence and all that. Then Prabhupada made this very animated thing, shaking somebody, say, "You love me or else." Then you cannot love somebody like that. You cannot force somebody to love. Shake that person. If you don't love me, there is no love like that in such a situation. Love means there has to be freedom. There has to be independence. So Krishna will, right now, if you ask a condition, even a devotee, not condition, so let's say a devotee, practicing sadhaka devotee, if you deep in his heart, if you check what does he want, it will not be Krishna Prema. He will want so many anarthas, so many desires are there. I want this, I want that devotee to be put down, I should be put up in that. All these kind of desires we have got. So Krishna is seeing that relatively, what is the relative strength of the desire for Krishna Prema and your desire for various other anarthas. Krishna is constantly evaluating. You see, Krishna sees that all our anartha desires are this much. Krishna Prema desire is very feeble, it is only here. So, in that state of consciousness, Krishna cannot it's okay, let this be there, I will only give him Krishna Prema. He will not force on us. So, there is a quality of consciousness when we do these kind of spiritual activities like chanting, taking bath in Radha Kund, doing parikram and deity worship, in all of these things. There is a certain quality of consciousness with which we perform these things in order to get the full benefit of that. So right now we are not able to have that kind of a consciousness. Our anarthas are overpowering, and hence sadhana bhakti has to happen. By sadhana bhakti, anartha nivrutti happens. Then nishta, one becomes fixed devotee, and so on. And hence, as a result, these kind of statements are very true, but it has to be done with the right consciousness, and then one will be able to get Krishna Prema. I'll go to the next question. Doesn't it mean directly... Okay, one second. Doesn't it mean directly giving Krishna Prema at once in 1 second? Or it means that we have to become purified then? Yeah, I think I've already answered that question in the previous thing. It means... If one is in that state, Prabhupada also makes that statement, that if one has the right consciousness, you dip in Radha Kund, you come out, your Krishna Prema you are having. Yes, but usually we don't dip in that full right consciousness. We are holding back, our anarthas are holding us back, and hence we are not able to do devotional service. Why 16 rounds? One round, one mantra, one chant, Krishna is enough. But today, we are not in that state of consciousness. We are not able to call out, Naivaryatyabidatum vai. That's what Kunti Maharani is saying. So that calling out. There's a quality to such calling out that we are not able to manifest. I'll go to the next question. How steady intelligence is attained when intelligence is also repository of lust? Okay. I think the devotee who has asked the question is saying that, referring to that question of Arjuna, where does the lust sit? And Krishna says lust sits in the senses, in the mind, and in the intelligence. These are the sitting places of lust. So these are the sitting places of karma. So intelligence is also sitting there. How steady intelligence? So by our sadhana, lust which is sitting in the indriya, manas and buddhi, it has to be evicted out and it has to be purified. And then steady intelligence comes about. So steady intelligence, all of this will not come about if one does not purify one's consciousness. So that is why Cheto Dharpanam Archanam, that is the first effect of the Sankirtana, of the chanting, and that is the most important thing that we always pray to Krishna. Krishna, cleanse my heart, purify my intelligence. Then steady intelligence is possible. Otherwise, it is not possible. Next, how to understand painter, painting and easel in reference to kshetra, kshetragna, purusha and prakriti. Okay. So Krishna talks about there is a kshetra, there is a kshetragna, and there is purusha and prakriti and many more things like that. So the devotee has brought this question about painter, painting and the easel. Okay. So the kshetra, kshetragna is the kshetragna means one who is conscious of the kshetra. Kshetra is a field of activity. Different living entities, according to their karma, they get a certain extent of kshetra. Like an ant, because of its karma, he has got a small kshetra, like an ant body. And with that ant body, that ant can move around in a certain way into a small hole. That is its kshetra, where that ant kshetragna acts. But the same soul of the ant, if he does some good karma or something, or if he has done some good karma in the past, in the next life, he can become a rich man owning a 15-bedroom house, big bungalow, and he'll be walking around in that. Now he has got a big kshetra. Now, if he has got even more punya, he can become a demigod, and I'm owning the whole planet, and I'll control other planets and other living entities. So this is the kshetra, the extent of the kshetra for the kshetragna is dependent on the karma. Now, let's take the example of a painter. Painter is there, and then he can create a big canvas, small canvas, beautiful painting, not so beautiful painting, different kinds of painting, and all of those kind of things he uses and creates a paint, right? Now, but the paint itself, if I am understood rightly, I think the devotee has heard some class or something, which I'll try to make the best. Try to make as much sense from the question as possible. Now the paint is, so the easel is from where the paint is coming and the painter is painting. Where is that coming from? That's actually coming from the prakriti. Because the body that the ant has, the body as a human being has, the body as the demigods have, their bodies and the kshetra that they are dealing with is all part of prakriti, energy of the Lord. And who owns this prakriti? It is the Purusha. So there is a kshetra. Kshetra is a small part of the prakriti which has been assigned to one kshetragna, one soul, to deal with according to the past karma. But the controller of the kshetragna, the controller of the kshetra, the controller of the prakriti, everything is Purusha. And it is Purusha, from Purusha, the prakriti has come, the kshetragna has come, and then according to the laws of karma, as decided by Purusha, that kshetrajna is given a certain small kshetra or a big kshetra to work around and try to fulfill his desires. So I think this is more or less the parallel that we can draw. What is mindset we need to maintain while hearing Srimad-Bhagavatam class? First mindset, at least for the temple devotees I can say, is they should be awake, because devotees have a hard time. The devotees' life is like that. They rise very early, and then by the time Bhagavatam class, they're quite tired, and for them to be awake itself is a big challenge. Anybody who has lived the temple life, they will know. Most devotees are sleep deprived, and hence if they sit down a few minutes, they'll fall asleep like that. So the first mindset I would say is to be awake, because there are examples. Devotees have come and told me, I've heard this from many devotees. Prabhu, when I was not in the temple, I think I used to hear better classes, and then I used to read Prabhupada's books very nicely. But now after joining temple, it's become difficult. It's mostly because of sleep problem. And they will be having, outside they might not have had that kind of a rigorous sadhana, rising very, very early and all of that. Apart from that, being awake. It's very important that we maintain, what's that expression Prabhupada uses? I think it was submissive enquiry, submissively hear the message of the Srimad-Bhagavatam. Submissively hear, meaning that a devotee has this understanding that actually I'm very, very small. It's a fact that we are very teeny. Whatever it is, a human intelligence, even if you say collective intelligence, even if you say cumulative intelligence, collective intelligence means all intelligent human beings come together. Cumulative intelligence, okay, many, many generations of intelligent human beings, all of them put together and all the intelligence put together. Even then, if you compare the vastness of the universe, the cumulative or collective human intelligence is very, very small. We cannot fathom all of the universe and how all this, we can't even fathom what the universe looks like, what to speak of, what was the intent of creating this universe. We cannot figure these things out. We need help of the Vedic literatures. We need help of somebody who knows these things. And so that submissiveness, that yes, I by my own intelligence, by my own ability, I cannot figure these things out. I must hear from the Shastra. I must hear from a pure devotee. And I must hear from a representative of a pure devotee. May not be pure devotee always. Pure devotee is very, very rare. Not so easy. So, of course, we have Srila Prabhupada's recorded lectures and Prabhupada's books are there. We can hear from Srila Prabhupada. And there are devotees who are also trying to represent Prabhupada as purely as they can and as sincerely as they can. We can approach them, and that's the system Prabhupada has anyway created, and we honor that system. And so we take the help of devotees, and in a submissive manner. Submissive mean keeping the slate open. This is another example Prabhupada gave, that we should keep the slate open so that the spiritual master can write. Not that the slate is full of my ideas and the spiritual master wants to write, but there's no place for him to write because the slate is full of my ideas. Then where is the opportunity? So that's not called submissive hearing. So a devotee must hear from the spiritual master or from a representative of the spiritual master with a clean slate, with an open mind, submissive mind, humbly understanding that I need to hear, I need to understand. And a devotee may have some questions. Questions are permitted. So that is I think the frame of mind one must have in order to ask the questions. I think we have come to the close of time. And thank you very much for bringing all these questions. And I look forward for some more future occasions where if there are any more questions, I'll be happy to address them. Hare Krishna, Srila Prabhupada ki, Hari Naam Sankirtan ki, Nitai Go Premanande Hari.